Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. Today we're talking to Chef Abby Cheshire, author of Passport to Flavor, a brand new cookbook featuring 100 global dishes you can make anywhere. In addition to teaching culinary arts to high school students during the school year, Abby spends her summers traveling the world as a chef on a private yacht. She also makes time to share fascinating videos on her popular social media accounts under the name Abby in the Galley. I encourage you to follow her accounts on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, where she has created a wonderful community of little chefs. Her videos are fantastic. Abby has been featured in the New York Times, Newsweek, and more, and has worked with the Food Network stars at the Super Bowl. When she's not traveling the world by boat, she lives in Central Florida. So I want to say, I love this cookbook. I really love this cookbook. And I was curious about how you came up with this particular format, because I'm looking at it. I actually read the whole entire thing, and I thought I would call this a culinary travelogue because it has stories and pictures and recipes and tips and everything, and it's so interesting. There's even a map on the inside of this book that shows the route. It's probably one of the most interesting cookbooks I've ever read. So I just was wondering, how did you come up with that format? Because I've never seen one like this.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It is a little laid out differently than most other cookbooks where, you have your meat section and your side dish section. But for this one, really wanted it to be like a journey that we are getting on the yacht together and pulling into the specific port and then cooking a full day's menu. So in each section, we pull into the country and the little port city, and then we cook a full day's menu. So breakfast, lunch, we have a cocktail party, which is a cocktail and an appetizer, and then a three-course dinner, which is either a soup or a salad, the main dish, and dessert. And that's exactly how I schedule my meals for every single day on the yacht. So that's exactly how I cook on the yacht. And I wanted to do an international cookbook because when I'm working on the yachts, I work for a single family. So we're on the boat together for a month or two at a time. And I like to keep the food interesting. So I'm not just cooking all Italian food for the whole 2 months. I like to switch it up and go on a little journey with them together. So international cuisine is kind of what I do when I'm working on the yacht. So that's how I structured the cookbook.
That is great. I really appreciate traveling through food and through cooking because we're not big out of the country travelers. We're actually not out of the country travelers, my husband and I, but I really love cooking food from all over the world. I love how you did it. I love how you did each country, and it seems to me like the recipes are genuine to the country, and I really did appreciate that. This cookbook also has a really nice instructional quality to it. Sometimes it's daunting getting a cookbook because you look and you go, God, I'm never going to make that. But this one, your instructions are so good. And for everything, what you should buy and how you should store it and how you're going to process it and how you're going to use it. And I just feel like your love of teaching shines through. And I think, was that intentional? Did you intend to do that? Or was it just a fortunate happenstance that it came out that way?
It was 100% intentional. So my mom actually was the ghostwriter for this cookbook. She's a retired English teacher. So we're both teachers and we do it well. We both do it well. So
Yeah.
that was definitely the intention to make it manageable cuz when I look at a cookbook, when I pick up a cookbook and I see 3 pages of instructions, I close it and I'm like, not today." So my goal was to make sure that the cookbook was approachable to any skill level. And that's kind of like how I want myself to be perceived over social media as well. Like when I say, "Hi, little chef," I want it to be encouraging and I want it to be genuine and I want to make people feel like they can do it rather than no, this is only for the elite chefs working on yachts. I want it to be approachable to everyone.
That is great. Now you said in the book you work on a 100-foot yacht. And I was trying to think in my mind, 100 feet, how big is your galley? How big is your working area in your kitchen galley?
The galley itself, I would say it's pretty good size. I would say like a normal like condo kitchen. And it's open to the salon of the boat, which is pretty much like a living room. So I'm not like underneath the ship out
Okay.
of the guest's way. I'm in the living space. It looks like a small apartment. But it's deceiving because there are many, many places where my food inventory can be stored. So on boats, there's storage everywhere. If you lift a cushion on a couch, there's going to be wine bottles. If you go to the VIP bedroom and lift up the bed, there's going to be all of my rice and pastas. So every single space, every single storage space on the boat is going to be filled with food because I provision everything out of Miami for this 2-month trip over the summers, and, that's a lot of food, of dry
Oh,
goods,
yeah.
so every inch of that boat is stocked with food.
Oh my gosh, it's gotta be like a scavenger hunt finding
It
I would
is.
have sticky notes everywhere, I think.
Yeah, I ended up getting an app where I could, like, put in where everything was, and it was make it super easy for me to track everything.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Wow. So so what was the learning curve like on your first trip? Did you have like was there someone training you or were you just basically figuring it out?
I was figuring it out. So I came from the catering world where preparing for one event, I was preparing for, a dinner for an event, not breakfast, lunch, cocktail hour, and dinner for 2 months. So I knew the basics of how to portion, for each person, how much everyone needs. But this was much larger scale than a single catering event. This was like a catering event times 400.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just I knew where to start, but it was just doing the same thing that I would do for a single catering event for every single day and every single meal.
Like extreme catering. You're out there.
Extreme catering, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So how many recipes do you think that you had going into it, as you were preparing to go out? How many recipes do you think you had when you started?
So, this is actually funny and kind of why I wrote the book. So, when I started this 5 or 6 years ago now, I wasn't really a recipe type of cook. I kinda just did as my Nana and Gigi taught me of just, throw a little bit of this, throw a little bit of that, and then as I was kind of learning my craft in the college years, I just kind of figured out what sauces, what spices, techniques of regional cuisine. I could make anything that was Thai cuisine because I knew what kind of ingredients went in, but I didn't follow any recipes. But what made me write the book is that I saw all of these comments online saying like, "Wow, that looks incredible. I need to cook this. I need a recipe." I'm like, "I've got nothing to give you." So that's why I kind of sat down and started developing these recipes, and it was like a good 3 years of recipe development, and, it's cool because I go in my cookbook and I follow my own recipes now because they're tried and true.
I've had to do that with the podcast because I was kind of like that too. And I have recipes from my grandmother who immigrated from Italy in the early 1900s. And her recipes basically say a peck of this, a handful of that. And I made her homemade Italian ketchup one time, and the first time I made it, the recipe said hot peppers as many as you like, and it was like wing sauce. So I had to keep scaling it back,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
until I got to the place. But yeah, it is rough having to write everything down. Another thing in this book that is really cool is and I never had this never had occurred to me before, but when you're coming into port on a ship, I know what ports are like and they're huge. And I thought, here you are, you're coming into port and now you have to go get fresh food. And the markets that you talk about going, this market and you're going to go to it and you ride your bicycle and everything. And I thought, wow, I wonder, like, first of all, how did you find markets? And was that hard? And secondly, where's your favorite port and your favorite market?
So it's a lot of talking to locals. The marinas that we pull into, they're the people that are in charge of the marinas know everything. But if we're anchored, we kind of just go in, find the local, and ask them, "Where can we go?" For one example, in the Bahamas, it's Daniel Key. The grocery stores are known by the blue grocery store or the pink grocery store. There's only 2 on the island, and you have to keep an eye out for the supply boat because once you see the supply boat, you give them, like, 8 hours for them to unload everything, and then fresh food should be in the markets. When I say fresh, I don't mean very fresh because it did have to be imported in, so wilted spinach is a normal type of produce that you'll get in those grocery stores. But yeah, talking to locals, exploring. The captain has been to a lot of these places before, so that he knows a lot of stuff too, and he'll usually get me hooked up with taxi cabs and stuff, but locals are your friends.
Oh, yeah. That I just thought, "Oh my gosh," because I know even when you just go on vacation, trying to find a good place to get things is hard. It has to be double hard in a port.
Yeah, yeah.
In the cookbook, you said on one of your trips while making a particular meal, you logged 20,000 steps. And I was cracking up because I forget everything. And I thought, my God, I'd have like 40,000 steps because I forgot that. And I had to go back down or back up or back, or lift something up again. And I just was thinking, what is the meal prep like? Because since you have things stored everywhere, and sometimes you're obviously doing meals when you're actually at sea and the boat's moving. So how is that like? What is that like to prepare a meal in those circumstances?
Yeah, so I always like to say that I am 3 days ahead of schedule because all of my proteins are provisioned out of Miami, so all of my proteins are frozen. So I have to know what the menu is for the next 3 days to be on constant rotation of bringing things out of the freezer to get it thawing in the fridge. So one of my refrigerators is half of it is just meat that's thawing, proteins that are thawing, for what I'm gonna cook for the next 3 days, and I rotate it every single day. I'm putting a different type of protein in there, what I'm gonna cook 3 days from then. So there's a lot of just organizational, logistic kinda things. I have a little handwritten planner that I'm constantly going through, looking at my refrigeration and seeing what I need to use in the next couple of days, and that will help me figure out what the menu's gonna be because if something's going bad, I wanna use that first. I'm not a fan of waste. I guess I got that from my Gigi. Very resourceful. In regards to, like, cooking while the boat's moving, I have a good idea of when we are gonna be underway. The captain will let me know what the schedule is gonna be. So if I know that we're gonna be underway and I'm gonna have to cook a meal, I'll try to prep as much as I can while we're at Anchorage or while we're in the marina. So that way when lunch or dinner is served, all I have to do is put it together, heat it back up, or throw it on a plate because it is difficult. It is difficult, especially when there are rough seas, to prepare a whole entire meal start to finish.
I was thinking that with storms. I mean, have you been in big storms like that? How's that on a 100-foot yacht?
This last summer was pretty scary. We hit a storm that we didn't expect. We didn't see it on radar, and it just came out of nowhere, honestly. So we
Oh
had
my.
to cut our short. We were going to a different island, but we had to cut the trip short and pull into another little harbor of an island. We had to get hooked up to we had to anchor there because we just couldn't go any further. It was horrible. Lightning, thunder, everything, and I actually had to stop cooking and doing dishes because on a boat, when a boat gets struck by lightning, if you're touching metal or water's running, like, you're you're toast. You're
Yeah.
getting electrocuted. Yeah, you're not supposed to touch any metal, or anything or shower. So, yeah, cooking, I had to put that off a little bit until the storm passed. But the wind was whipping like crazy. It tore off our canopy. It ripped off the cushions at the front. They went flying to the open sea. It was
Oh
it was
my
intense.
gosh.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's always on this rogue wave thing, and I'm like, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, I cruise a lot, so I don't wanna hear about any rogue waves.
Jeez. Oh, that's just mind blowing. That's what I think that's my big attraction to this cookbook is everything I'm reading, I'm imagining what it's like, what it's like to actually be cooking on a ship and it's moving and oh, it just freaks me out. What's probably the most challenging dishes you've ever made on board the ship?
I think the biggest challenge is when I have a large group of people because all
Oh
of my
yeah.
pots and pans are usually like sweet spots like 7 people. But there were times where I had to cook for 25 people when they like 4th of July week is usually the biggest week for them. They just fly down everyone they know. So there was like a week where I had to cook for 25 people. So it's like cooking things in batches. So it takes a long time to just like do this stew in this one pot and then do it again, do it again, do it again. So I'm just like using every single pot and pan that I have, every sheet tray that I have. It's a lot in a small space, but it's doable.
It's probably like if you have that mindset, looking at it like this is a challenge. I have to do this challenge and complete it. You know. Oh man, I really like the format, like I said, of the cookbook, and I like that 7 recipe format because it's so doable for somebody to even pick whichever meal you're going to make. But you have everything there. You have side dishes, you have desserts, you have cocktails, you have everything you need to do this sort of a meal plan. And that would be the way, like you're cooking on the ship like that, like you're making everybody breakfast, you're making everybody lunch, you're doing the whole thing. That is crazy. That is just crazy.
Yeah, my brother and his wife, that's like their favorite thing to do when guests come in town. Like when their friends come in town, they end up just like cooking all day and doing the whole entire country from the cookbook. And they've been having a blast doing that. It's a great social cookbook, getting together with friends and family and cooking together.
Oh yeah, because yeah, just to like I've been to Charleston several times, so I really loved the Charleston chapter because it had like all of my favorite Charleston foods in it, which I was cracking up. I'm like, oh my god, this is that was a great one. I liked in the cookbook in the beginning when you talk about traveling with your family. That was really so wonderful to me that your parents took you kids traveling to Europe and did it in a way that it's more adventurous, even though they're probably more trying to like be budgetary, but it was really adventurous, and to you guys that was fun, and I think that was really great. Is that where your love of food and cooking came from, those trips with your family?
I think so. Yeah, my parents were great with getting us around the world. Summers were an off time for my parents because my dad owned a dental practice. He just had his dental partner take over for the summer, and my mom had the summers off because she was a teacher. So we just went out and explored. Doing doing Europe was always crazy because we'd have a JanSport backpack, and I'm not talking like a hiking backpack. I'm talking like a backpack that you would take to school, and we would keep it under 13 pounds because we were also taking like little shooter flights to and from countries, so we didn't want to have to pay the baggage fee for that. So 13-pound backpack, and we would have a month at a time in Europe, and we would do laundry in the tub and have our clothes hanging up as we sleep on lines drying, because
Yeah.
it was a rough way to do Europe, but we did Europe. Like,
Yeah.
we were walking 10 miles a day, exploring everything on foot, eating food from around the world. So, yeah, I think definitely having the ability to travel, super grateful for because I got to experience a lot of cuisine and culture.
We did car trips in either we had a suburban and we had a van, and we have 6 kids. So you packed a little suitcase, and so we taught everybody from an early age. Like we would go camping or whatever, but everybody would roll their clothing, and you only took so many, and organized everybody. So it was so funny because when everybody got old enough to travel, like my oldest daughter did a 3-month excursion in Europe through college. And she goes, everybody else had like all these suitcases, and I had my one little suitcase, and people would be saying behind me, she goes, I could hear what they're saying. She can't be an American. She only has one suitcase.
Yeah, yeah, I still bring these light packing, techniques throughout my life.
Yeah, it's definitely a great skill to have. Is there anything that I have missed in talking about your cookbook that I love?
Thank you. I don't think so. I think you hit all the important things.
Awesome. Well, this cookbook is available wherever you get your cookbooks. and it's definitely one you should get. I'm honest to goodness, I'm in love with this cookbook. And I very highly recommend Passport to Flavor. I wanted to just, in closing, my last question is, if you could choose one city in the world to visit, what city would it be? And what food would you want to enjoy in that city?
Mm, that is difficult.
I had to pull a real hard one out in the end.
Yeah, yeah. I would say um maybe like maybe Tokyo,
Oh,
and I would want to go for like a omakase sushi. Have you heard of omakase?
uh-uh.
So it's like this tasting menu, and they just like prepare the sushi in front of you.
Oh,
I love sushi, so I think that that's like bucket list for me. I would, yeah, Tokyo with really quality sushi.
that sounds awesome.
Mhm.
Well, it's been so nice talking to you and so much fun. I really enjoyed it. And we're wishing you all the best with your cookbook and your social media. And by the way, people, you have to go and check out the social media, Abby and the Galley. It is, it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful. Great tips on I watched a couple of them. The one I really loved was selecting a steak. That was like, oh man, I never even thought of getting the full steak, instead of the T-bone, you get the other. Very good advice. So thank you very much for talking with us. We wish you all the best with your cookbook and your travels.
For Chef Abby's book, Passport to Flavor, go to abbyandthegalley.com and Abby and the Galley on social media. You can find us at Mary Mac Bakehouse on social media and marymacbakehouse.com.
Okay, now, here's my closer. Thanks a lot for listening if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.
Love it.
That's my snarky Irish closer. Well, thanks a lot, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate the cookbook.
Oh yeah, enjoy.
Thank
Keep
you.
me updated with what you make.
I sure will. I sure will.